Welcome back to the Weekly Boost podcast. This is episode 20, and we're really excited. Special guest this week. I grew up watching him almost every night, listening to his forecast and everything. We're really fortunate to welcome Chief Meteorologist from WISN 12 in Milwaukee, Mark Baden. Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Episode 20, going to be your worst, but we'll have some fun with it.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is the second time we tried to schedule something, and with that tricky storm you guys had last week, I'm glad we could get something worked out. And we were talking before we recorded how I'm actually having more snow in Oklahoma than Wisconsin for December 15th, which is kind of odd. But,
well, oftentimes when we think of leaving Wisconsin to go to Oklahoma to get more snow in December, that's typical. Yeah, you've actually not just had one, but you've had two.
Yeah.
Especially you get out toward the Panhandle. I think they're closing in on 20 inches already for the season.
Yeah, and we had that ice storm in October, which was crazy.
Which is really unusual for you guys.
Yeah, we didn't have power for 2 days, so
the central part of the state had no tornadoes this year either.
Yeah, it's crazy time to be down here for sure. But yeah, like I said, when we start brainstorming on guests to invite on our show, I was going through my dad's shop a couple of years ago, and I noticed this picture of me, and it was held up by a magnet, and it had the whole Channel 12 crew with Sally and you on it from early 2000s. And you're coming up, is it 23 years at WISN?
It'll be 24 in March. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Incredible.
I've got a lot more wrinkles now and a lot less hair than that magnet picture.
Well, I will say this. I have to add, when I told one of my friends we might have you on the podcast, he had to compliment your hair. Says it looks great.
That's good. There's not much there, man. So tell your friend I appreciate it.
That was the first thing he said too. He's like, "You got to tell him his hair is great." So,
oh my God, that's pretty funny. Pretty funny.
Meteorology as like a major isn't too common. I think there's a program down here. Typically you don't see it at a lot of colleges. So, if you could just kind of like talk about your path to where you are now and becoming a meteorologist, covering storms, and now what your chief meteorology job entails. Sorry.
Sure. No, absolutely. My interest started in weather when I was 7 years old. This is the Dorky Story you'll hear from many meteorologists that get into weather. I saw lightning strike a tree in the middle of the night when I was 7. And I thought it was scary, but it was fascinating. It was an incredible experience. Blew the bark all the way off most of the tree. And so I thought, man, that is really, really cool. And I wanted to learn more about it. Did all my science projects and book reports all through grade school and middle school and high school, all about weather. Knew that I wanted to be a meteorologist. Thought I wanted to be a research meteorologist. My goal when I first started college was actually to be a research meteorologist in Antarctica for at least a year. That did not happen. So strange things happened on the way. My college, I went to Western Illinois University, very small program. I graduated with 7 other people in the meteorology program at the time. And so there was only like 25 total. And I think in the entire country, there might be 30, 35 programs in the country that offer meteorology or atmospheric science. So when I first started, I was going to be a research guy. I was going to do research, work for the Weather Service, and probably continue on to get master's and PhD. Then I realized that's really, really hard. So I decided that's too much work. I'll let you guys do that. So what happened was my sophomore year on campus, they started a TV station. I had no desire to be a TV guy, to be perfectly honest with you. I did grow up. I emulated a guy that was in St. Louis for years and years. His name was Dave Murray. He was there forever. He retired just recently after probably 40 years. And so they had this tryouts for the campus TV station. Wasn't going to do it. Buddies of mine are like, come on, just try it. So I did. I got one of the 4 positions that were available. You can guess how many people tried out. So thankfully, that's how I started, and it was great because I had 3 years of live television experience on once or twice a week. which most people don't have in their college experience. And so I was able to get rid of hopefully a lot of the really big mistakes
Mhm.
that you can make early on. And I mean, I still make mistakes just about every day, but hopefully they're not the big egregious ones that you
Yeah.
could do early on. So I got great experience there at Western, loved it. And then was thankful. I was very fortunate, able to get a job pretty much right out of school. My first job was in Columbia, Missouri, um, making $5 an hour. It was not a lucrative path, by the way, to start things off with, and was there for just a short time though. That was part time. My first full time gig was in Sioux City, Iowa. I got the whopping 13,000 a year full time. Uh, then was fortunate. Was there a year. I had interned at a station in St. Louis. That's my hometown, and they took a total flyer on me, and because I was young, I was 23 years old, and so I moved from market 139 to market 16, I think at the time, which was a very big move. And I was part time, but it was a huge jump in salary and prestige. I thought I was going to stay there forever. It was my hometown. I
Yeah.
was working at a very good TV station. I mean, I probably could have stayed there for a long time, but there were people in place in front of me that weren't going to go anywhere. And then my old boss in Sioux City became the GM in Des Moines, and he offered me the chief meteorologist job at 23 years old
Wow.
in Des Moines, which I couldn't pass up, but it was the right move.
Mhm.
So then I was there for 3 years, and then was offered the job here in Milwaukee. Again, be perfectly honest with you, never thought I was going to stay in Milwaukee. I didn't know anything about Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Just people just didn't really know you. You made it up. If you grew up in St. Louis, you made it up Chicago. You didn't come to Milwaukee, and I didn't
Yeah.
have any family in Wisconsin. So I thought, oh, it'd be a stepping stone. I'd come to Milwaukee, and then I'd jump there, and I'd go down the lake to Chicago, and then make my move to Good Morning America. But here we are today. And happy that I didn't do any of those moves. I could have gone other places, but I feel this is home. I mean, I was engaged at the time. I've been married now for 22 years.
Wow.
Got 3 kids,
Nice.
so it's worked out very, very well.
Yeah. Was there if you could pick, was there like an ideal place you'd want to forecast consistently besides like your hometown maybe?
Yeah, it was always. I thought, and I'm glad I had the experience early on to go to my hometown and kind of get that out of my system to realize it's not the end all be all.
Mhm.
And I love St. Louis, but I mean, I honestly like Milwaukee more than St. Louis, except in
wow.
the springtime. Except in the
Yeah.
springtime,
Yeah.
because we don't believe in spring here.
No. No, we definitely know that because we played baseball in the spring and
Baseball in
it's
the
terrible.
spring, that
Yeah,
inside
it's the
fastball hurt
worst.
a lot.
Yeah.
when it
Oh,
was
yeah, it did.
95 degrees.
Especially with
Oof.
those old metal bats. Yep.
Yeah, it makes my hands sting right now just thinking about it.
So you're from St. Louis. I have a quick question. You're from St. Louis, and now you currently reside in Milwaukee, obviously. So obviously, there's a big Brewers-Cardinals rivalry, right? Where do you fall on that?
That's a good question. I've been disowned by my family.
Oh,
My parents were season ticket holders for many, many years, with a group of other families. We're a huge Cardinal fan. I was a giant Cardinals fan. And I won't say that I'm not a Cardinals fan, but I've become a Brewers fan. I've been here so long. We do the forecasting for the grounds crew. That's a big deal to me. And so my allegiance gradually started to change. And people are like, how can you change from your childhood team? Well, you can when you get so involved, and you also, I cheer for Milwaukee. There was nothing more exciting than getting a big alert today at 12:23 that Giannis has signed the Supermax. I mean, those kind of things that's big deal. I mean, we've got MVP with Giannis, we got MVP with Yelich, and of course there's MVP with Rogers. And I mean, we had Braun as well. So that to me is exciting. There's nothing I would want more than a championship in this town, and maybe with multiple different teams. That would be awesome. I mean, we've certainly seen it with the Packers, but I mean, it's been since 1971 with the Bucks. That's I was 1, so you guys didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would be so cool to see that happen. And hopefully we can get this darn pandemic over, I
Mhm.
have other words that I want to use. And
Yeah.
then we can actually then, I can only imagine the amount of people that would show up for the parade, because
Yes.
you probably heard the stories of '82 when my Cardinals beat the Brewers
Mhm.
and they still had a parade down
Yeah.
Wisconsin Avenue for a second place team. I mean, can you imagine what would happen if this city actually gets a champion? I mean,
Yeah.
it would be incredible.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Just the changes that I've seen, just growing up to Milwaukee and the revamping of everything, and you can hear it in your voice. You're, definitely passionate about the city, and like you said, something like a championship can definitely do a lot for a town like Milwaukee.
I know this has nothing to do with weather, but it's fun to talk about.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
I think about the changes from when I got to Milwaukee in '97. There wasn't a lot in this town. I mean, yes, we had the Brewers playing in that tin can of County Stadium, and you had the Bradley Center, which was a hockey stadium that was turned into
Mhm.
basketball. You had really a very, very limited choice in restaurants. And to be honest, there wasn't anything really to do downtown. I mean, the third ward didn't exist, and now all of a sudden, I mean, it's exploded. I mean, and
Yeah.
now
Mhm.
we've got the Deer District, we've got everything that's happening downtown. Summerfest expanding all the time.
Mhm.
Hopefully that'll happen this coming summer.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's fun to see the city really change. It was a bummer to see the DNC not be able to come here.
Yeah.
Ryder Cup, of course, will be back in the fall, so that'll be fun. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
I've become a Wisconsinite. I'm not sure if you ever really are allowed, if you aren't born here, to be a Wisconsinite or a Milwaukeean,
Yeah.
but I'm trying.
People are real passionate about that for sure.
Yeah.
They are, and I still don't call it a bubbler, and
Oh no.
and I won't eat that raw meat at Christmas time.
Yeah,
It is not-
Yeah, I don't do that either.
Well,
I don't
there's your
understand that
line.
one. Yep.
Yeah, firm line. Oh, so let's take a couple steps back to what you said about your program at Western Illinois. There's only 25 people, and there's, like you said, there's 30 some programs across the nation at that time. That really kind of creates this community, and I think you get that with any specialized profession, like for like baseball players, for example. If you're a professional player, you're part of this community. Um, with meteorology and news reporting and things like that, there seems to be a lot of, I don't know if turnover is the right word, but a lot of
Mhm.
exchanges. Because I think there was just this past year, someone went to Omaha. You guys kind of did like a direct switch. It seemed like I think someone else just went to Florida to be closer to family. Does that
Yep.
is it cool to see some of those people succeed in those different places?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's what you want to see now. I mean, early on for me, I was in really small markets. Nobody usually hung around in those small markets very
Hmm.
long. I mean, it's almost like a farm system to move up. And eventually, and again, I didn't think that Milwaukee was going to be the place for me. But I mean, you get a pretty tight knit group. Now, what we have here, I mean, for the most part, I work for a station that does value experience. There's a lot of people that have been here a long time. Although we've had a
Yeah.
lot of people that have retired. But
Mhm.
that's the bonus is that they're able to stay their entire careers or the majority of their career, and they retire from here. That's my goal
Yeah.
is to see that happen. Um, and it's on the right track. We'll see. We'll see if the company agrees. But it's a tight knit profession overall, and inside of that, it's tight knit for. I mean, the people that I graduated with, that was, I mean, a super tight knit. I think of some of the small markets that I worked in, like in Sioux City. I was there for a year, but the people I worked with, I'm still super close to all of them. We still have reunions, even though we only worked together for a year. Some have worked together for 2 years, but these were great people. I got really lucky to have that situation happen. And then at this day and age now with social media, I've got, I mean, private Facebook groups that are inside of the world of meteorology, and a couple of different ones. One big one that's a much smaller one. And these guys have become, and gals have become, really close, tight knit friends of mine. And we can shoot stuff off one another all the time. You want
Mhm.
to talk about a great way of improving? I've improved by doing that, by watching what these people do. They're some of the preeminent people in the country, and I'm just fortunate to be able to call them friends.
Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I kind of sense that in sort of what I do as well. I'm a microbiology researcher right now, so I do a lot of stuff across
Like I
different
said, you're a lot
campuses.
smarter. You're a lot smarter than I am.
Thank you. Well, I don't agree, but One of the things that I noticed, see, I live up in Green Bay, obviously. So we have the WBAY network is the thing that I'm closely knit with. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Oshkosh, so a lot of WLUK and stuff like that. So how is that interaction between different stations and different markets? How do you guys undergo that process of interacting? Is it pretty seamless, or is there a little bit of back and forth?
For the most part, it's pretty good. It depends on the market.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate here in Milwaukee that getting along with competitors. Actually, really good friends with almost everybody in town here.
Mm-hmm.
If we go back in time, when I first started here, I was the kid. I was 26 years old, and there were longtime juggernauts that were the chief meteorologist. It was Vince Candela. It was Paul Joseph and John Milan and Jim Ott, Bart Adrian. All of these guys had been in the market for like 20, 25 years. I used to joke with Paul Joseph, and he never joked with anybody, that he started at TMJ a month before I was ever even born, and he got a kick out of that, which was good. But in terms of who's here now, it's really great to get along with Brian Goddard, with Rob Haswell. He's actually the coach for my daughter's lacrosse team.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of fun stuff like that. And Tom Walks and Drew as well, Burgoyne. And Drew I've known since he was in high school, because he's from the area.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the kind of relationships that you establish. Inside of Green Bay, there's Luke Sampe, who left from here to go up there. There's Pat Powell, who was a year younger than I was at Western Illinois. And so I know him very, very well. And he's been there a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
And Sampe's doing a great job up there. So it's fun. It's close. For the most part, there are some markets where they don't get along very well.
Mm-hmm.
One of those is Oklahoma City. They don't play very nicely necessarily with one another because it's so hyper competitive with the craziness when tornadoes happen. But thankfully here, there's not that, and we get along well.
Yeah, I noticed it was definitely different getting used to a different crew, for sure. The first couple times.
And then you've got guys that are retired. Gary England is probably the most, best known person in the entire state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And he's a television meteorologist. That tells you the power of a meteorologist in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
It means a lot, and people take it really seriously down there. I wish that people up here realized at some point we're going to get slammed, and I'm nervous.
Yeah. So you mentioned social media and how important that is. One thing, I feel like every time I scroll on Twitter, I see someone, hey, Mark, check out this picture, or hey, or I see a joke that you post or something. How important is seeing some of those pictures? I think like this past weekend, seeing where that snow was and where the rain was and where the mix is. Do you take that into account when you kind of, make adjustments to your forecast going forward? And do you like your presence on Twitter? Do you think it's or do you think it's you get a lot of people, hey Mark, why didn't we get this snow? Or you know what I mean?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
There's part of it that I love, and I like Twitter more than any of the other social media platforms. I like Twitter because it's fast. You get to see things very, very quickly. And for me, in terms of weather, I'll ask people, I'm like, hey, send me pictures of what's happening at your house. Because even with radar, you can't always definitively tell that rain snow line. You can get pretty close, but man, it really is helpful to see, all right, this is what's happening on the ground. And I have enough people that I've known for a long enough time that you can actually, my wife's calling me right now, but hopefully nothing's too bad. Don't mind me. I'll call her back after this. With enough people that are following you and enough people that you've known for a little while on Twitter, whether you know them at all personally, that you can trust some of their reports, because there's a lot of stuff that gets sent out. Just in this last storm, there was some nonsense. Yeah. Somebody sent me, it snowed 6 inches here in Delavan, and I knew for a fact we've got a we got a camera in Delavan. I'm like, I know you don't have 6 inches because I can look at my camera and I can see there's not 6 inches on the ground. There might be an inch. And so you always have to worry about that. I mean, it's changed the game. Social media has. It's so important now in terms of the broadcast world. But man, it's really time consuming. And my job is 365 days a year. It's hard to put it away. And I try to, especially when I'm doing stuff with the family. I try to get away from it when I can.
Yeah, since you kind of took it that way anyway, one of the things that we kind of talk about over and over in episodes is ways to unplug, whether it be meditation or just finding ways to detach yourself from, your work and finding that work-life balance. Is there anything like your favorite activity to do that?
I take a walk or a run almost every day, and I will never have my phone with me. It's a way for me to decompress. I'll take my dog for an hour and a half walk, really almost no matter what the weather is. That's super important. Golf is a great escape for me. And so I'll have my phone with me, but I'm not really paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about the latest tweet. I'm not worried about what people are saying on Facebook at that time. And it's just good. You've got to get the mental break. Yep. I know a lot of people in this business, it is really difficult. And some in my profession, as meteorologists, they just can't take that criticism. And if you're in this business and you can't take criticism, boy, you're in for a tough road. Mm-hmm. It is really, really difficult. So for me, I've got really thick skin. I can take. I laugh at a lot of the stuff that's been sent to me. At least be clever. Just do it. If you want to make fun of me, have something that's clever. Just don't say that you're stupid and I wish that I could be wrong 90% of the time and still have my job. Come up with something that's actually original and make me laugh. And then I respond almost to everybody though, unless you're totally crass. And then then you're gone. I've gotten better at blocking people, which I wasn't before.
As long as it's not a hair joke, because it looks great, apparently.
You can make fun of that too. That's fine. There's not much left, man.
So kind of talking about that accuracy and transparency with forecasts, do you ever feel like pressured into making sure that you get the forecast correct as much as possible? Like, do you feel that pressure with each and every forecast you make?
Every time, and especially with snow forecasting here. Obviously, especially when it's severe weather, when we're talking tornadoes and thunderstorms, that's the most important thing of all. I can't lie down on the job during that time. I got to make sure that I'm giving everybody the latest information. But that's a little bit different because that's almost instantaneous. We can see sometimes the ingredients are there for the setup for that kind of weather. But with snow forecasting, just like this last storm that came through, it's amazing. I'm not 100% gray or 100% bald because it's a forecast like what we just had. We had some places in our area got as much as 7.5 inches, and then a lot of other areas got zilch. And that part, it's tough. And do I take it? Oh yeah, I do not like to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's a pride thing, and you don't want to miss. And so, we missed for part of the area, and it was for part of a large contingency of the population area. So we're talking about Milwaukee. Waukesha picked up about an inch. But Racine and Kenosha, it was all rain the whole time. Milwaukee at least had some snow. It just didn't stick. It melted on contact. So
gotcha.
Yeah, but it's kind of our bread and butter. It's what I take pride in the forecast.
For sure. Yeah. Is there like a up and down cycle where you can kind of get down on yourself when you do make a mistake, but then it kind of gets reinforced when you get it 100% right? Like, is it hard to kind of like ride that wave out, or do you kind of stay, even keel the whole time?
I try to stay as even keel as possible, but we're still human.
Yeah.
And so, here's the funny thing is you might be on the best roll and you start getting cocky and you can be great and you're hitting one forecast after another and you're like nailing it. And then you'll just blow it. It's something will change at the last second and it'll be a terrible forecast. Well, guess which one people remember?
Yep.
The one you missed.
Yeah.
That's the one that people remember. They don't remember. You could hit 99 in a row and miss one. They're only going to remember the one you missed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
That's
pretty
fair.
funny how that works.
Yeah.
Um,
For
but yeah,
for
it comes in stages.
for me, I remember, I think it was last year, last winter, we were supposed to get 18 inches. There was that really big storm coming by, and we didn't really get it didn't pan out. So there's your example of that one thing,
And those big ones, those are the ones that people really remember.
Mhm.
Because when you start throwing out those big time
18.
numbers,
Yep.
those are rare events. I mean, really, really rare, like once every 10, 15-year events, even in Green Bay, in the Fox Valley. That just doesn't happen too often. It doesn't happen
Mhm.
here either.
Yeah.
The last time we had anything like that was a Groundhog Day storm. So we're going back to 2011. Those things are rare. You don't want to
Yeah.
miss. You don't want to miss on those. You don't want to have an 18-inch forecast and then come in with like a 1-incher.
Yeah.
That doesn't bode well.
Short leash on that one.
Yeah, though. So it's kind of with, I guess, the common talk of the times right now with climate change and everything going on with that. Have you seen significant changes in weather patterns, especially in our area? Because, the Northwest, the mighty Northwest and the mighty Midwest, home to a lot of snow, obviously. And we're starting to see year after year snow falling later and ending earlier than normal. So kind of for our listeners and Ben and I ourselves, we're kind of curious as to what your take is on that.
Yeah, and I've adjusted my thought process through my career in this, because when I started out, I was not a big believer in human induced climate change. That has changed for me entirely. Um, it's hard to deny what's been happening, and we'll just start just Wisconsin, for example. The later freezing of lakes, the earlier thawing of lakes, a lot of different patterns, different insects now, worries of what trees will still be able to be alive in 50 years in our state unless they are able to adapt, how it will affect agriculture, the unknowns of how it's going to affect Lake Michigan, because, of course, we've been in a super wet pattern, and Lake Michigan has been incredibly high. Thankfully, it's gone down now in the last 3 months, but it's about 2 feet above its long-term average, which is causing huge problems with erosion. So is that all climate induced, and is it all human induced? No, you can't put all that into one basket, but it is hard to deny with everything that's going on. And of course, not just in Wisconsin, not just in the United States, but across the world, and really up in the Arctic regions. That's the scary part, is the lack of Arctic sea ice and the melting of permafrost. Those are what are known as positive feedbacks, which turned into a negative thing because you're releasing all this methane when you're melting off those the ice caps and especially the permafrost. And of course, that's another greenhouse gas. So we're in some precarious times, and it will be interesting to see where we end up going in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of things you're saying are very negative things, and you work in an environment that gives viewers a lot of negative news, no matter how much you try to mix in that positive. Does working in that kind of environment ever bring you down, or do you just focus on your passion and kind of can stay positive that way?
It's been a difficult year, the pandemic, and I really feel for the reporters, not just the pandemic, but also with the racial unrest. That has been just absolutely enormous stories. Difficult to come in and watch it every day. It's difficult to hear about death after death after death, numbers of people with the virus going up. Me personally, my best friend lost his dad Friday to coronavirus. So it's much more personal. Now that's the closest person that I've known, and that's now I think I'm up to 4 people that I've known that have died of coronavirus. So it's that kind of thing is no doubt it's difficult. I feel like, and I take this on, hopefully not too much, but it's really part of my job is to be the part of that newscast that people can kind of and be like, all right, and try to keep it as light as possible and try to bring a little bit of joy and try to have some fun. I mean, I love what I do. I think I'm fortunate I get paid to do a hobby. It's an amazing gig. And I love it, and I'm fortunate to have it. And so I take that responsibility on, and hopefully people they can get a little bit away from all of the negative, and there's a lot of negative.
Mhm.
And it's trying to find as many positives as you can in the midst of a very difficult time in our lives.
For sure. Well, Austin, you got another one?
Yeah, I mean, kind of getting into that. I was waiting for you, Ben. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Getting into that and talking about trying to do whatever we can as an individual in trying to affect a community and change a community and help them out. Um, charitable works, obviously, that we're starting to see a major increase in those for causes that are demanding change and progress for our communities. So, how satisfying is giving back to you? Like, how much of that do you try to incorporate in your daily life, regardless of monetary? Yeah, not only monetary, but as well as like words of wisdom and emotional support and stuff like that.
It's a huge part of what I can do. I have a platform. I'm granted a platform with a fairly substantial number of social media followers, a large number of people that watch the news, as well as for me different charities that mean a lot. It's been weird to do these virtual charity events. It's so very strange. Just last week, I was part of the virtual roast of Mike Goucher, which of course, is, I mean, the all-time great anchor in this market, one of probably the greatest anchors in the history of this country. And somehow I was asked to be a part of that, which was awesome. And that's raising money for a great organization, 16th Street. I have certain ones that mean a lot to me. I do a lot of work with Neighborhood House. I do a lot of work with Children's Hospital. A lot of my stuff is children's charities. That's and especially with inner city charities as well. The need is great, and so it's pretty important.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and I'd like to think this is an example of this. Giving back to us, and we hadn't met before, and we're once again really grateful you're able to spend some time with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I don't mean to be rude. I'm going to have to call this. My wife is calling way too many times. So I'm a little bit concerned. I'm a little bit concerned something's going on. So I got to make sure all my kids are all right. And I hopefully I gave you enough time.
No, for sure. We'll let you know when it comes out. It should come out on Wednesday or on Monday, and then I look forward to watching your forecast in the next week for a couple of weeks.
All right, sounds good, gentlemen.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You as
Happy
well.
holidays.
You too. Thank you.